Episode 8 Temperature.
Like clockwork, Dwight opened his eyes to the sound of his alarm clock going on at 6 a.m. precisely. Groggy, he shot out a hand from under the covers, groped for the alarm clock, and managed to feel its steel frame in his hand. He then proceeded to hurl the offending device into the same wall he had been throwing it at for the last year. There was already a convenient dent there. Yawning, he got up, dark hair flopping upwards fluffily. As he stretched and tried to flatten his hair down, he felt static electricity through it. He paused carefully, considering. It was cold like the last circle of hell in Windsor this morning, darker than usual too, and now the static in his hair. While others may have deduced that it was a normal winter phenomena, Dwight Houston was far too experienced a hunter for that. He immediately pulled out a bagful of holy water dampened rock salt blessed with all the right incantations. He cast a narrow-eyed look of suspicious alertness throughout the room. In a single bound, he sprang off the bed and launched into the air. He landed with both feet onto a salt-lined perimeter placed at the precise spot he always landed on, rolled, and raced into the bathroom, slamming it shut, inwardly praising himself for his excellence in avoiding the malignant specters yet again.
Gonna have to do better than that to capture Dwight Houston,
he mentally crowed before leaping into the bath. His roommate merely continued to sleep, used to this daily occurrence. Later, Dwight was fully dressed in school uniform, still proud of himself. The hair couldn't be helped, it was still fluffed up. He jogged downstairs carrying his school satchel and his black coat, ready to face the day's educational fray while remaining vigilant about every single sign of unusual spiritual activity within their ancient school. He took pride in the fact that he woke earlier than most of Windsor, and that with this careful vigilance, he would be able to properly protect his Windsor brothers as the one defender against mortals and all of demonkind.
Yep, I am bad-ass.
Dwight flung open the door.
Ah, crap.
What in the hell?
David and Wes hissed from the foyer, still in their sleepwear, hands under their arms and wearing slippers. They had just been roused by Dwight's unceasing yells for them to wake up and come downstairs, and while they were prepared to shake him down, they stared at what was outside their door. Their exit out of Windsor was 2/3 blocked with solid snow. It was packed so tight that when Dwight had opened the door, it was just this wall of gray that faced them, with only a top sliver of free air.
There is no way we're getting out of here with that.
It's like this even in the back door, and the first floor windows. What is going on here?
Why are you asking us? We just got up, man. I haven't even had my coffee yet, and it's freezing.
Reed came in, wearing a downy robe and slippers with his pajamas, still looking drowsy.
The fireplace in the common's all wet. We have to clear all that snow out of the way or we can't light a fire.
Wes grumbled, glowering at all the ridiculous snow that was up to window level and worse in some spots.
Damn it. This is just perfect. How are we supposed to get to class?
Hate to break it to you boys, but we're not going anywhere. No one is. You all want to come take a look at this?
The boys looked at each other and then went up to where Evan and Ethan were smiling much too happily for the situation. The identical ones were gesturing out one of the second-floor windows that faced the rest of the campus. They pushed the windows open, snow crumbling away as they did, and let the boys take a look. David and some other Windsor boys stuck their heads out the windows to see. David's jaw dropped in shock. Dalton was almost completely sunk in snow. Windsor was barricaded by cold whiteness in all directions. The snow had to be almost 4 feet deep all around them, with even more flakes drifting down from the sky. There was just cold everywhere with nearly no exception. The fountain at the front had frozen, and from where they were, they could see that Stewart House and the South and Main in the distance were in the same fix. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, Hanover on the other end must be blocked up too. Wes yelled from the third-floor window he was looking out from, holding a pair of binoculars.
It's just a whole lot of white out there. There aren't even any pads. If we want to get out, we'll have to fight our way through all this ice.
I'm not going out there. Are you insane? It's like the Blizzard sequence from Balto.
Our phone and power lines are underground, so they're still working. But I just got a call from Howard. He says that all the boarding professors are also stuck inside the teachers' quarters, and the others couldn't even get onto the campus grounds.
How did this happen?
You guys didn't anger anything, did you?
Evan and Ethan finally climbed heavily into the hall with great pride, wearing what was unmistakably full winter gear, down to a hat, gloves, snow goggles, and boots. They each had snowboards tucked under one arm. They pulled up their goggles in unison and grinned as the boys stared at them.
According to the Weather Channel, boys, we are smack dab in the middle of what is an unprecedented level of snowfall in Ohio history. And that authorities everywhere are currently scrambling to provide aid to those trapped by all this snow. And that they are tirelessly working to clear it all out. But they're not doing that much of a good job. They're trying. But it's definitely a snow day for us, because they aren't going to get to Westerville properly until later this afternoon. Which means that we could be stranded with no rescue, forced to survive on our wits, and having to sit inside watching daytime soaps and canned food. Seriously, we're basically screwed though. Like in a lie, except without the eating each other part. We hope.
Dwight blanched, automatically clutching his talisman.
I'm not very edible. I'm all skin and bones, like my mother keeps telling me, FYI.
Wes gave him a sideways glance of disbelief, and then looked back to the twins.
So we slept through a blizzard, we're trapped indoors, and you want to go snowboarding?
We were thinking maybe trying it down the roof of the observatory first. It's got a nice clean slope to it.
You guys, I don't think we should be having this much fun. The professors
Are locked under 4 feet of snow. What's your point?
You could break your necks, maybe? And, I don't know, die both an academic and literal death?
That's right. And I suggest we make the most of it while we have this opportunity.
Evan made his way to the balcony with his twin. David raised an eyebrow in disbelief as he followed them.
Opportunity?
Ethan smiled patronizingly, putting an arm over his shoulder as he gestured dramatically over the balcony and all the whiteness that was Dalton, sweeping his hand out like Mufasa at Pride Rock.
Oh, you poor prim hatter. Look, David. Everything the light touches is, well, pretty fucked up.
What?
David stared at him like he was crazy. Evan patted David's back heavily.
He means let's get cracking. It's not going to last all day.
With twin whoops, both of them hurled themselves off the balcony and landed with a heavy flop into the snow. The boys gasped and ran to the balcony, looking down.
Hey, you guys, are you alright?
Uproarious laughter was coming from the snowbank below, both twins half buried in snow, awkwardly struggling to get up again. They were laughing too hard to be successful. Ethan yelled from where he was struggling to get up. He waved wildly, sending snow flying.
This is great! Come on, let's go, you guys!
Evan was pelting the boys at the windows with snowballs. Wes smirked a little and glanced sideways at David. David, still looking in disbelief at the twins, looked to him, then did a double take. Wes had a glove on, and he had a lot of snow scooped up in it. David gave him a warning look even as he edged away.
Don't even try it, man. Don't even... Get back here, Wes!
And Windsor House broke into a bedlam as the boys came pounding down the dormitory in their snow gear, jumping out of windows and into the whiteness outside. Kurt opened his door, rubbing his eyes, wondering what the riot was all about this time. Reed walked up to him with a long-suffering smile. Kurt blinked blearily, eyes swollen with sleep.
What's happening?
Snow day.
I'm Kurt, and this is Dalton Academy. We made it through sectionals in one piece, but we were going to have to do a lot better than that to beat vocal adrenaline for regionals. Oh, during sectionals, I slapped Logan right in the face. And it kind of felt good, actually.
So much for the fall music festival. Administration kind of overshot their estimation of fall. I don't know about you, but all that snow says winter to me.
Dwight muttered grumpily, huddled by the fire in the common room, wrapped in a huge black comforter. He looked like a giant blob of black pudding. Reed just laughed, getting up from where he was poking at the logs.
Won't it make it easier then, if we sing Christmas carols for the festival instead?
He stood and brushed off wood chips from his pants and then cringed.
Aw, man. Another splinter.
He sighed, holding his index finger, and headed back upstairs to find the first aid kit. Kurt presently came into the common, wearing a white Chanel turtleneck that Reed had lent, or given, him. He was carrying a tray loaded with hot drinks and frowned at the group of boys in the common room, dripping in melting snow and huddled in covers.
And what did we learn today?
Not to go out when there's 4 feet of snow.
Evan asked helpfully, him and Ethan sharing the same comforter. Ethan grumbled. Kurt rolled his eyes and handed him a cup of something warm.
How were we supposed to know that not more than 15 minutes after we got out, a second assault of snow would come falling?
You were the ones who watched the Weather Channel and you didn't know?
Kinda stopped listening after 4 feet of snow and snow day and stranded.
I'm sure. It took me and Dwight half an hour to drag you all back in here before you all basically became candidates for cryogenics. While the rest of the guys had good sense to stay near Windsor, you just had to be more ambitious. You all had to go to Stewart House and throw snowballs at them.
Wes protested, head sticking out of a bright blue comforter.
They threw back!
You started it.
Kurt held out a warm cup to him as well.
What's this?
Something I wanted to try. I saw a recipe on the internet.
Ethan was drinking his when his eyes suddenly went wide when he realized what it was.
Oh! Oh!
Then he started drinking the whole thing down as though he were all but inhaling it. He grabbed Evan's cup and started drinking out of that as well.
Hey!
Oh, hey, is this?
It's butterbeer! Kurt made butterbeer!
Evan yelped when he finally managed to grab the cup back from his brother and got a taste. Wes grabbed Kurt's hands, eyes wide and staring up at him.
Hey, Kurt. I know I'm straight and you're gay, but if you and Blaine don't plan on getting a move on, can I marry you? Please?
Kurt, bright scarlet, swatted him lightly on the shoulder with the drink tray and got up.
Where is Blaine, anyway? I haven't seen him yet this morning.
He must still be.
David never got to continue as Reed came hurtling down the stairs, all but throwing himself down them, slipping a few times as he did. He banged his shoulder as he rounded the banister's end. He just winced and kept going, and skidded into the common room.
Guys, come quick. Blaine's really hot.
A terse pause. Dwight gave him an incredulous, narrow-eyed stare.
I think Kurt is well aware of that, though, Reed.
Kurt smacked a pillow into Dwight's face, knocking the spiritualist over with a grunt, but he turned quickly to Reed.
What do you mean?
Seriously, he's burning up. Come on.
He just turned and ran up the stairs. Kurt immediately followed after him, the rest of the boys shedding their comforters and running up the stairs.
Blaine?
Kurt sat at the edge of the bed, leaning over the Windsor prefect, curled up under thick sheets. Blaine was shivering, but he remained fitfully asleep. Kurt was a veteran at taking care of people by now. With only him and his dad, he was the one who had to look after his father whenever he got sick. And after dealing with his father's recent heart attack, a fever wasn't that much of a challenge anymore. He touched Blaine's palms at his forehead and then shook his head.
He's really burning up.
What do we do? I mean, we can't take him to the medical wing. There's just no way we can carry him out through all this snow.
Don't we have any medicine here?
Kurt took a digital thermometer out of the first aid kit Reed handed to him. After a click, Kurt looked at him. He sighed deeply, concerned.
It's a really high fever. He's 102, almost 3.
The other Windsor boys looked aghast. Kurt kept his hand on Blaine's forehead and looked at Wes.
We need to bring down his fever. Whole lot of ice out there, Wes. Could you get me some and put it in an ice pack?
I'll go see if we have any medication in the kitchen.
What can we do?
Oh, maybe I can...
No, not the comforters. Remember last time. We're not trying to smother him here.
Reed wilted somewhat, but remained looking worried. Kurt leaned down over Blaine, checking how he was breathing. In all other aspects, he would have never ever dared to lean this close to him. He did seem to have some trouble breathing.
He sounds a little bit congested.
Kurt straightened up for an instant, wondering what to do. But when he turned back to the others, Reed was holding out a container of menthol rub to him. Kurt gave his current, and possibly soon to be expired, best friend a look between stunned and murderous. But Reed, with the minutest twitch of the corner of his lips, simply raised his eyebrows in askance. Gingerly, Kurt took the container from him. The twins had these ridiculously knowing smiles on their faces, clearly enjoying what was going to happen next. Kurt glared malevolently at them, as though daring them to say anything, but they only also looked at him expectantly.
Why don't the two of you leave and see if you can get a hold of the school nurse? Ask her what we should do.
The two looked disappointed, but got up and did not contest. Reed smiled at them as they left, then turned back to Kurt, who was also looking at him pointedly. But Reed just smiled brightly.
No, I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, for the love of... Fine.
He turned to Blaine, cogitating what he was about to do. Biting his lip, he carefully moved his hands towards Blaine's collar to start unbuttoning. But he froze and jerked his hands back when the boy on the bed moved. Reed had to cover his mouth to smother a laugh. Kurt frowned at him, and Reed looked apologetic while his eyes sparkled with interest.
You know what? Fine.
He reached up and opened Blaine's shirt. If he did it fast enough, he wouldn't have to think about it. He rubbed some of the balm onto his hands and applied it in careful strokes over Blaine's chest and shoulders. Reed had an attack of giggles and had to leave the room. It was terrible, he knew, since Blaine was so sick, but seeing how awkward Kurt looked only made the situation more comical. Now alone and unobserved, Kurt felt a great deal less awkward as he studied Blaine's contorted expression as he slept. Just as Kurt was about to finish, he stirred, hands reaching him to carefully clasp the ones on his shoulders.
Kurt?
Awkward as it was, Kurt couldn't help but smile. He'd never seen Blaine look quite so vulnerable before.
Yeah, it's me. How do you feel?
Like death warmed up.
Well, I can't blame you. You've got a terrible fever.
He made to move his hands away, but Blaine held onto his wrists. Surprised, Kurt looked down at him.
What?
Nothing.
But he kept holding his hands, eyes closed. Kurt flushed, turning his gaze away. After a while, Blaine seemed to breathe a little easier and let go. He smiled faintly at Kurt.
Sorry. That was kind of awkward now that I think about it.
You're sick. I don't expect you to think rationally.
Why are you still here? What about class?
It's a snow day. Literally. Campus is apparently 4 feet deep in snow. Even the professors can't get out.
Kurt tucked the covers back around Blaine. Blaine turned away for a moment to cough into his hand. It sounded terrible.
Have to make sure the twins don't go snowboarding.
They already did.
And not to let Reed near the fireplace.
Already did that too.
What about Wes and David throwing snow at Stuart?
Kurt marveled at how well Blaine knew exactly what his friends would be doing on a snow day. But he shook his head.
You're way too late. Dwight and I had to pull them all back in here when the second wind hit.
You're alright, though?
Why are you talking? Why are you worried about me? Blaine, you've got 102-degree fever. You can barely breathe. You're in the middle of the blizzard of the decade. You just have to lie down, all right?
Blaine stared at him, eyes bloodshot. He leaned his head back onto the pillow.
Right. You know, I didn't want you to see me like this.
Too late for that, too.
Wes walked into the room with the ice pack. He took it from him and put it on Blaine's head. He winced at the coldness, but Kurt just shot him a look, and he left it on his head.
You look like crap, Blaine.
I'll take your word for it.
Kurt tucked the covers more snugly around him and watched as Blaine started to drift off to sleep again. That was when David came in looking distressed. He carried some pills with him, but he shook his head as he handed them to Kurt.
That's all we've got. Aren't even the right ones, most of them. And we kind of don't have much food left in the house. At least nothing Blaine should be eating like that.
How long did they say the storm was going to go?
Hours. But even if it stopped, there's still a whole lot of snow on the ground. How do we get out?
Kurt, come here a second.
With a glance at Blaine, Kurt rose and went to the twins outside. Ethan looked bothered and shifted uncomfortably when Kurt looked up at them.
We managed to get a hold of Miss Summers. She's still in her house, but because of the storm, she can't come here. She sounded upset when we described to her how bad Blaine looked. She said that we have to watch him carefully for the next few hours. If he doesn't get any better, she'll call for a medical helicopter to come get him.
He won't get any better. We don't have enough medication. We don't even have that much food. Your housekeeping skills are hideous.
We're aware. Pets don't live long either. Luke's spider lived for a month, I think, until Dwight's familiar swallowed it. And then the familiar died.
Ethan saw the look on Kurt's face and quickly ran back to the topic.
But we've got to try.
You told me when I first came here that you can open any door in this campus. Can you open the clinic? They'll have the things we need there.
Kurt, you're talking about going out and that.
Even if we did have a key to open the door in the cabinets, which we just might, you'll never get there right now. It'll have to wait until the storm dies down a little.
Look, we don't like this any more than you do. But Blaine wouldn't want you to go running out there either.
What about you two then?
We can't snowboard across campus. This is Ohio, not Aspen. Kurt, I promise we will go once the storm lets up, even a micron. Relax. Here, I'll even give you a key if that makes you feel better.
He put an unadorned silver key into Kurt's palm. Kurt just shook his head and turned back to the room.
Relax. Right. Maybe he'll get a little better.
Blaine didn't get worse, but he didn't get better either. While the boys tried to scrounge for food and clean up broken glass from the windows smashed in by snow and wind, Kurt was sitting with Blaine. It had been some hours since they found him. Blaine would fall asleep and wake, and neither time he looked relaxed. He only looked cold and ill. Kurt gave him his medication, and that helped for a while, but it would only work if it was constant. There was enough junk in the house to fuel the boys for the day, but the stock wouldn't help Blaine. All Kurt could give him for the meantime was a couple of apples which he could barely eat. Kurt started to notice how important Blaine was in the house. The other boys kept passing by his door as though looking to ask him about things, but they would remember he was sick and would leave. Blaine was the acting house prefect, and they all naturally turned to him for things. But now that even he was sick, there was no one to tell them what to do. David had to take over, keeping them away from Blaine and trying to keep the house intact. It had to be some form of karma, he had told Kurt. Blaine had whispered later that day.
You don't have to stay here, Kurt. You might catch it too.
I don't trust anyone around here with caring for someone ill. They can barely even look after themselves as we speak.
But it wasn't until when Blaine fell into a fitful sleep, clearly struggling with whatever was ravaging his body, hot and cold and skin red and tender, that Kurt felt he had to do something. Anything. Blaine looked tired and ill, and he slept clutching onto Kurt's hand. His palms were scorching, and pain was evident in his expression even as he slept. Kurt held onto Blaine's hand and leaned forward to it, taking a deep breath. Kurt got up and stormed out the door.
I can't watch this anymore.
David spotted him in the corridor, putting on a jacket and heading to one of the windows on the second floor.
Kurt! Hey, you're not going out there, are you?
I have to go get him medication.
The twins had already gone out to try and get some food from the south and Maine. If you just wait a while, they'll get to the clinic. Kurt, you can't go out there.
I'll be fine.
How are you even going to get in there?
Twins gave me the key.
I'm going with you.
I said no. Look, you've got to take care of the others in the house and Blaine. I'll be back. I'm not that delicate.
And with that, he opened the window and jumped out. His boots landed with a soft thump onto the snow. It was positively frigid. And Kurt, squinting through the wind, pulled down the ear flaps of his hat a bit closer as he trudged towards the direction of the clinic. There wasn't much snow falling any longer, but the wind was so strong that it was blowing all the flakes into his face, stinging. Each step he took sank his boots into the snow, and his feet were starting to get cold. He clutched his coat closed and moved as fast as he could across the grounds.
Kurt!
He stopped. From the direction of Stuart, he saw Logan running to him. He was wearing a thick fur coat and heavy-duty snow boots. Kurt tensed now, not for the cold, but at the sight of him after what happened last time. Logan called over the wind.
Kurt, what the fuck are you doing out here? Get back inside!
I have to get to the clinic. Blaine's sick. He needs medication, and we don't have any in the house.
Logan looked at him for a moment.
Come on, come with me!
Where?
To Stewart. It's closer. Clinic wing's on the other side of campus, near Hanover. I'll just give you some of our supplies.
Kurt was surprised, but he didn't have any choice anymore. He nodded and followed Logan to Stewart.
What happened to your eye?
It got hit by a fist. Nothing unusual.
Kurt stared at him, wondering why he would have gotten into a fight in the first place. Logan helped him up the way to Stewart and stopped him at their entrance.
Stay here. They'll all get mad at me if they see you in there. I'll get the food and the supplies.
He ducked back into the house without letting Kurt get a word in edgewise. Kurt shifted uneasily at this. He had slapped Logan back in sectionals, but here he was, helping him. And he didn't even care that it was all for Blaine either. Maybe Kurt acted too hastily? Had he been out of line when he slapped Logan? He couldn't be sure. When Logan came out, he had a large package of medicine and some food. He gave it to Kurt, who looked up at him.
Why are you doing this?
Logan gave him an odd look, as though wondering why he had to ask.
I'm the Stewart House prefect. I'm supposed to be helping you.
On the way back, Logan had brought out another coat, and they both used it as a shield to push through the snow and the wind. It was a long, cold walk, and not even standing near Logan could alleviate it. By the time they got back to Windsor, Kurt's teeth were chattering. Logan made sure that Kurt was able to get up to the window safely, boosting him up with his height. As Kurt climbed back into the house, he turned back to Logan, who just nodded to him, standing there longer than absolutely necessary. He then left to make the trek all the way back to Stewart. Kurt felt that twinge of guilt again. Logan had helped him with no prompting, without a word. He didn't know what to make of it. He took off his sopping shoes and his cold, wet things before picking up the brown package and heading into Blaine's room. The twins were there, checking his temperature.
Hey, Kurt, we got the food and medication.
He saw the package in Kurt's hand.
Where did you get those?
From Logan. I tried to go to the clinic wing, but he saw me. Gave me this instead.
The twins looked at each other, but said nothing. They just nodded.
Blaine's been talking in his sleep. He's looking for you, Kurt.
They didn't imply anything with their tone either. They simply left. Kurt sat down next to the bed again and checked Blaine's temperature. It was a little lower than before. With a deep sigh, Kurt got the medicine ready and took Blaine's hand. He hoped he would get better. Blaine stirred. When he looked up, he saw Kurt asleep on the edge of the bed, holding his hand. He smiled. On the dresser table was a small medicine cup with some tablets, and the cup itself was labeled with a post-it. "Drink me." Blaine smiled at that and dutifully took his medication. He held onto Kurt's hand and watched him continue to sleep, his serene face never once implying what he dreamed of, or if he was dreaming at all. He wished he knew who Kurt dreams of. Gently, Blaine leaned forward and kissed Kurt's frozen fingertips, breathing gently onto them to warm and thaw them. He smiled down at him. He was starting to feel better already.
On the next episode, the Warblers start to prepare for the Winter Festival. The Warblers are set to perform in front of the school and the alumni for the festival, and the battle for positions resume. However, this time, Kurt has to duel for the position of second soloist.